competitiveness much quicker.
Okay, awesome. Eclipse, go ahead, man.
All right. So we all kind of understand that there's a big gear gap. And I think that's more or less the tremendous reason why new people aren't playing is because you can't win against somebody that's hitting you twice as hard. And I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff on the forums and stuff about all this, but it's basic math, and anybody can do it and kind of see that there is a gear gap. Have you guys considered doing anything like perhaps locking away the PvE gear at least temporarily in order to facilitate a good competitive PvP environment and get people in to achieve that rating? Because all I see right now is a situation where people are just going to continue to do practice battlegrounds when you unlock that gear, because that's what they do to get the gear. There's no incentive, period, for rated play right now. And I think that's a lot because of the gear gap. Can you lock away the PvE gear as a short-term solution so that people can say, hey, I've got blue gear now, I want to face against people that are also in blue gear, and then up into the epic PvP gear without having to get face stomped by somebody who's got, a convergence weapon or whatever the PvE weapon is that just, has 400, 500 more assault power.
The question, whether or not we can lock out PvE gear, it is something that engineering would have to change on the back end. It would create some messy situations with people trying to PvP before they have PvP gear, as it's an all or nothing thing at that point. So it's a huge time constraint, like it's a huge time investment for something that will have both positive and negative results at the end. So it's nothing that we would really want to go forward with. We like going forward with a better solution, which is the stat normalization downward instead, and then weathering the storm a little bit while we get that in.
But I think I speak for a lot of us here when we say we've been weathering the storm for a while, and it would be nice if we could have situations where we could play competitive PvP. Perhaps maybe that it would be a good solution is to temporarily, lock away the PvE gear for the 3 or 4 months that it's going to take for that gear normalization to come down.
The issue is that is not a faster solution than the one we've already been talking about.
Honestly, if you guys are in agreement with that, then that sounds like a better solution with what they're going for, Eclipse. Like if they know that the route is going to be shorter the way they're doing it rather than trying to fix it another way, I'm in the same boat. Like I don't want to wait any longer just because we've been waiting a long time. But I think that if the patch comes quicker than there goes my mic.
Wake up.
Quicker than 4 months, then I think that's acceptable. I know you guys can't give us like an actual time frame on that, which sucks because we all want dates, but development process is just that. Things come up, things catch on fire. I get it. Is there any other smaller changes between now and that patch going to be implemented, or are you guys just really focusing on that one patch to try and really bring back the PvP scene and then start moving forward from there?
I mean, it's kind of what Brett's already discussed already. We're trying to make it more accessible, give the gear that kind of bridges the PvP gap, and then eventually work on that solution for the raid gear in the long term.
Okay.
I just want to clarify too. I'm not trying to pick at you guys or start an argument here. The answer that I was really looking for was that it isn't going to be any quicker to do that than it is to get out with the gear normalization. Basically, what I was asking for, is just, are there any solutions to fix the giant issues, or to temporarily alleviate those giant issues before the 4 months, 3 or 4 months that we're going to expect for the next drop? That's all I was saying. I wasn't trying to, that was a good answer that you gave.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess my next question is kind of out of left field, but would it be possible to just drop the rating from PvP gear completely until the patch and then just kind of move forward that way? Would that be a possibility?
That's exactly what we're doing.
Okay. Okay. So we basically have to wait for the patch for things to move forward. Then is what you're saying?
Okay. I want to clarify. Patch they're not always bi-weekly.
Right,
So we're
right,
not
of
calling
course.
them actually bi-weekly. So when I talk about patch, that's the stuff that comes out Monday, Tuesday nights, on a weekly, bi-weekly, however frequently they are, and then drops are the big drops like we just had this morning. And
Okay.
so that stuff is stuff we're going to try and put in a patch that will be some number of weeks away. I don't know how many, and then the drop is still a ways off.
Okay, awesome. That's actually really encouraging to hear. So, Kron, I know that I think I said your name right. You had a question.
Is there anything being done for the low-level PvP aspect of the game?
You mean like level 6 through 49?
Hey, wake up.
Correct.
Okay.
Not in the. We won't be doing anything with the low-level PvP. That was the question. In the short term, the vast majority of our players right now are level 50. Being able to play PvP all the way from 6 to 50 is definitely something that a lot of people enjoy, and that is something we will be trying to improve, but not in the short term, just because at this time the majority of our players are already level 50, so we really want to focus on changes and stuff that improves the experience for them.
Okay. Awesome. Good to know. Clorin, and then Eclipse. So, Clorin, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess this was kind of a follow-up about dropping the rating. So does that effectively mean that the 1500 gear is going to be, like, basically worthless? I mean, I guess in the sense that buy the blue gear with gold, and then you just get the 1800 gear.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, solid answer.
At that point, why don't you just make the 1500 set the gold set?
It provides more gear progression for players in between those two sets, and the 1800 sets are pretty expensive prestige-wise, and so you actually have to play quite a bit in order to earn the entire set for your character.
Okay, so
Are you guys not upping the prestige amount that it costs to get those pieces of gear, or the cap in general? Are you guys not doing that?
For the patch that's coming with the amp and ability points, those are actually going to cost more than the ones that are currently on the vendor. Or this is current plan; things are subject to change, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, grain of salt. The current plan is that the new ones will cost 10K and 8K prestige, and so we'll be raising the cap up to there. But the gear we're planning right now to leave at its current prices.
all right, cool. In terms of the new gear, is there going to be a large gap like there is now, or is that kind of the overall goal of the new gear changes, is to kind of slowly increase the stats and the actual gear gap?
There is not a plan for there to be a huge gear or stat discrepancy between that set and a fully maxed out set.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Sort of the goal, like for a loose range of kind of where we're planning, is if the idea of like if you bought a set of gear and then it had 0 runes on it versus then you had that set of gear and then you fully runed out the entire thing, is that's sort of the gap we're looking at.
Okay. Eclipse, I know you wanted to talk about a couple things, so go ahead, man.
All right, so there's 2 big things that we haven't talked about yet, and I just wanted to bring them up to make sure they got answered by somebody or talked to about somebody today. And then we already kind of touched on low-level PvP, and I just want to make a comment and say that I kind of disagree with the fact that you kind of want to disregard low-level PvP, because that's one of the #1 things that brings more people into the game is the low-level PvP. I think that's a very big issue that needs not to be disregarded. Other one was alts, which goes hand in hand with that too. You know, this game is not alt-friendly, period, especially for PvP, because you just don't get ability points or renown points except for like the 2. And then the one that's driving, I think, a lot of people crazy and stuff in chat that needs to be answered is like duels. Duels are like an integral part of the game, and that's something you find in all MMO PvP games. People like to duel; they like to do that in their spare time. And one of the things that you can't really do is you can't really just duel wherever you want, especially in a house. which is one of Wildstar's strongest things. So have you guys considered doing anything for people that want to duel in housing or change the way it works on a plane?
So, two different things. Alts, totally agree with you, but it would that is kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about here. But I will just say that, like, as a whole, making the game more alt friendly and having stuff that both encourages alts and makes the alts feel like less of a grind to catch up, that sort of stuff, are things we definitely want to do. For the dueling thing, that is actually something that I was just looking into last week. I don't have any ETA, but that is something I want to change to make being able to duel. So you can duel in houses. The issue is that if you build up some sort of crazy house, which people tend to do, then the dueling flag falls through the decor down to the terrain and cancels the duel because you're out of range. And that is a bug I want to look into.
So in terms of alts, I know that you guys really can't speak much on this, which is fine. But B-Paul suggested doing something like SWTOR did, which they merge everyone 6 to 49 or 10 to 49 or whatever the cap you guys wanted to set it at, and bumped everybody up to level 50, like quote-unquote stat-wise, kind of like equalization, and then they could just kind of level that way. Would that be something that you guys would consider doing?
So we had talked about doing something like that.
User joined your channel.
But it's something that we're a little timid on venturing forward because there are things like ability points and amp points that provide such huge swings in power that we would need to figure out a solution for that gap as well to make it at least fun for that 6 going up against somebody that is closer to cap.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
To mention, you only
Yeah,
have,
go ahead.
half your abilities.
Yeah, that's true.
That would kind of come in where you would just do a PvP LAS.
Well, something I wanted to add on that is, have you considered maybe making a third bracket? Like, right now there's practice and ranked. You could have like practice, normal, and ranked, where practice is anyone, 6 to 50, and you could just impose some rules, make it stuck for people who are 50.
I mean, that's something to consider in the future. Right now, that is something I would lean away from, just because the things we want to look at and kind of make changes to is to reduce the number of different segments that the queue system is breaking players into, rather than increasing it with something like that.
Fair enough.
Someone in the chat wants you guys to address what your opinions on our cross-faction battlegrounds. So I'm not sure if you guys have talked about this yet, but what are your guys' opinions on it, and do you think it would be a good move for the game?
So it came up on the forums once or twice.
Yes, it did.
The change that is coming in the next drop is that we are having same faction battlegrounds, so that you could have an Exile versus an Exile team instead of it requiring an Exile versus a Dominion team. The request from players is that it be Exile plus Dominion versus Exile plus Dominion. There is no ETA for that happening. We don't have any plans to work on it. It would be a phenomenal amount of work on the back end, and the opportunity cost for that is extremely high and not currently worth it at this time.
Well,
it's not a bad system, but the way our system is set up doesn't support it, and enabling the support for it would just be a ton of work that we think we can better spend by working on other stuff.
Awesome. Well, that's really encouraging to hear. I think that'll definitely boost the PvP numbers a little bit. Anyone else have anything to add while we're on this particular subject? Because I'd like to move on to open world PvP and kind of renewing the life of PvP servers. So if anyone has any comments or ideas or questions for Carbine about open world PvP at this time, that would be awesome. We have about 15 minutes left.
Okay. One note on cross faction. I don't know why people want mixed teams, but that seems like it would make things very difficult to organize rated matches. That's my 2 cents. I'm against that.
All right, so open world PvP and PvP servers. It's been a huge kind of issue since, well,